What's up, gamers? Welcome back. It's the Meta Update. It's me, your boy, Josh Howard. Let's go ahead and talk about the lists. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but we do got some lists to show you guys, so should be a good time. To start off with, if you're interested, I got a little bit of a rambling or a rant to do towards the end of this video that we can kind of talk about. It's a little bit about the drama. It's a little bit about just being good people. It's also a little bit about how I've been frustrated with like the way the guard has been balanced for a long time. But we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about that towards the end. So if you're interested in that, stick around. If you're not, whatever, enjoy the lists. It was still not a great weekend for us, but we are no longer in the 30%. However, if you remove a couple of players, we go down to a 38%. So, kind of keep that in mind. There are still some good players doing well, but overall, not super good. Actually, we're gonna show you guys something really quick. Let me pull it up. It'll be fun for you guys. Okay. One sec. I'm sure this is all of your favorite things. Sorry. Sorry. All right, gamers. Here's more data for you. I'm sure y'all love this. It's very, very well done, very pretty. Anyway, we're not a very good purge for me. Is maybe the biggest takeaway from this. We've got like about as many purge players. 40% of people are playing purge, and it's really, really not doing very well. This is partly because I think a lot of people play purge poorly in general. It's just like people didn't really understand how to play Purge the Foe in 10th. A lot of people were not very good at it. You really needed to understand that it was a different style, or you need to come from like a different era of the game where that is how the game used to be played. So I also don't think we're like a great Purge the Foe army. I think we're okay at it, but it's doing bad, guys. It's doing real bad. Other fun stuff to kind of look at here is Bridgehead is doing pretty darn bad. Um, yeah. I don't know. It's not looking great, but just wanted to leave this up for you guys to see. It's kind of fun. Talk about other stuff more later. Anyway, let's get back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so like we said, it's not looking super great. Our detachments are kind of not looking super good. Dispositions are kind of struggling, but there is some light. There are some exciting things. I'm gonna go ahead and show them to you. To start off with, we have, of course, Wesley St. Hines. I have already reached out to him. We will be doing an interview in the next couple of days that will get uploaded. He's still playing Recon Element. He's still winning events. This time he got first place at Western Wisconsin Wargaming Weekend. There are 4 Ws. However, that is too long, and I did not want to type all of that out. It's pretty similar to the list that we saw him play. I think it was ATC, whatever the 8-man teams was. He's got the 20 Cadians and a Castellan with Scaregrass grenades. Ooh, 2 Silent Bricks, Gaunts, Dreer, and Ogre Bodyguard that you can still, as far as we can tell, you still attach this during the Declare battle formations or whatever. It's a different step than the list building. So in theory, you can choose to attach it to different things. Most of the time, it's going to go with the Castellan, but you could put it with Silence if you need them on the board. 1 unit 20 Krieg, 3 units of Recon, 3 units of Catachan Las Cannons, 2 units of 5 Krieg Engineers, 3 units of Krieg Las Cannons, and a Scout Sentinel. So this is still 19 shots of Las Cannon every turn. They're going to be hitting, so one of the things that I've been seeing happen more and more, and one of the things to keep in mind when you're looking at stuff is you will need to start talking to GOs about this pretty quickly, because heavy says that you cannot have moved more than 3 inches. And plunging fire says that you need to be 3 inches or more above the battlefield. So if you move from the first floor of a building exactly 3 inches up into the second story, you can get plunging fire. However, okay, let's talk about the implication of that really quick. So if you do this, you can effectively get +2 to hit because you get +1 ballistic skill from plunging fire, and you get +1 to hit from heavy and not moving more than 3 inches. And then with take aim, you can get another ballistic skill. So you get +2 ballistic skill, +1 to hit. So you go from hitting on a base ballistic skill of 5 to hitting on ballistic skill 3 with +1 to hit. But then you're probably going to be shooting at something in cover. So realistically, you're going to be hitting on 3s if you can do that. Nemo did say during this event he got plunging fire on his las cannons 0 times the entire time. But keep in mind that that is something that you will have to look at with your own games. Are my ruins 3 inches, like actually 3 inches up? Or are the TOs going to be ruling by fiat that, like, even though this ruin is actually 4 inches up, we're going to say it is 3 inches up just for consistency's sake? Just have that conversation with your TOs, accept what they are going to be ruling. Some of them might be doing it, some of them might not. I don't remember if he did it at this event, but I know from what I understand, the official Games Workshop terrain, like the pre-printed stuff, is just 3 inches up. So I will have more to say about that soon, in like a couple of days. Tacoma Open's happening. Anyway, Wesley here with the Recon ending up being a lot of take and hold players, Blood Angels, Ultramarines, Thousand Suns, then Recon Dark Angels, and Priority Assets, Emperor's Children. Yeah, pretty good stuff. It is a very interesting list in general, right? It looks really weird. You got a lot of las cannons running around. You got some Cadian Recon who are chilling. And you got the Scout Sentinel. So it's like kind of going around. And I think the other big thing, or the other thing that I want to mention before I start moving on to the next list here, is I've been seeing a lot of people talk about the Cadian Recon Vox beacons disappearing. But I don't think any tournament is using that ruling right now, because one of the big things to keep in mind is that even if the war gear disappears, all the war gear did is it's not an ongoing effect from the war gear. It's not like an aura effect from the war gear. The war gear sets up the token, and the token, like once the token is set up, there's no reason for the token to leave. And there are other rules, the most famous of which is like Fulgrim's poison that just persists after Fulgrim dies. So we have precedent of things continuing to exist after the unit is dead. So, just kind of keep that one in mind. I'm pretty sure most of the competitive community has agreed that the Cadian Recon Vox Beacon does persist after the Cadian Recon dies. But the other big thing is, like, if it doesn't, Cadian Recon is terrible. Like, you just simply would not play this unit if the beacon did not continue to exist after dying. So just kind of keep that one in mind. I think basically every TO I've ever talked to is like, yeah, that's how that works. It just sticks around. So, something to keep in mind. Also, if you watch his game, his last game or whatever, he did play like a real wrong. We'll talk a bit more about that later. I also thought it was even more funny than that was just the fact that his I think his Catachan las cannons were just like on cardboard cutouts. But anyway. Wesley St Hines is good. Next, Tucker Rickey from Art of War. Of course, the guy who said Astra Militarum is A tier. We'll talk about that more towards the end. He won the Dreammaker GT, a 50-person GT down in Florida, where he ended up getting first place overall, getting 4 100-point victories and 1 98-point victory. He was playing Siege Regiment with Bridgehead Strike. Not Bridgehead Strike. Designation Force. I'm going to fix that because I think people are going to take photos or screenshots of this. I've seen people do this. And I don't want to get that wrong. Designation Force. Okay, so a couple things about this, why you would consider this is one, Designation Force does have the D3+3 reactive move, and it's not platoon limited like the one in Recon is. And otherwise, like, the big thing here is you kind of want to get back into the Recon disposition, and then Siege Regiment does have like a couple of pretty decent rules, like the full rerolls stratagem on characters, so like the Scions or the Castellan actually hit pretty darn good with full rerolls. And then you have like the +1 shot that you can do. I think that one's platoon limited, but I'd have to double check. And then sometimes you can use like the ignores cover to make your las cannons hit one better. So it's a lot of interesting stuff. A lot of similarities here between Tucker's list and the one we just showed you from Nemo. You still have Dreer running around who is using the recon beacons to be a very efficient source of orders, and then he otherwise just kind of hides. Creed, you can still do a lot of, pretty decent free strats. You still have the free grenades available. You can still use the free rerolls. But it is still just a lot of las cannons, right? This is 15, 16 las cannons they're going to be just putting out. And when you just have like that many las cannons, it starts to become a problem. And they're just kind of cheap, right? These are still 60, I think they're all 60 points per unit. And kind of like before when I was talking about the in 10th edition when you had Catachan las cannons, or rather Catachan mortars at the time, running around, they were kind of like budget Catachan in a way, right? Like you either use them for the heavy weapon squad or like the actual weapons, or you could also just use them as dudes because they're still OC2. That's still 6 OC. It could still be 9 OC. They still scout 6. They still move 6, which means that they can move 9, put like OC 6 kind of wherever they want. And it's just a lot of las cannons to keep in mind. So you still just have a bunch of stuff in the middle, and then you're going to be trying to create enough space for yourself. You have a lot of little units that can go around and push buttons, which is very important in recon. Tucker here ends up beating Dark Angels twice, Thousand Suns by 1 against Mike Muzzeni, another Art of War player. Beating Tau, and then beating Bryce Bennett, another very strong player down in Florida, in the finals there, 100 to 90. Very good stuff. I'll have more to say about Tucker towards the end. I have also invited him to do an interview on the channel. So if you know him personally and you want him to come talk, encourage him to say yes. So we'll see how that goes. Moving on, we have a big French event. It was nearly 200 players, Path to Glory, where we had a couple of players do relatively well. The first one is Thomas Agi Anastasio. I'm not confident in how I said that, but going 4-1. Um, the other big thing to keep in mind about French events is a lot of them are underrepresented because one, the country plays a lot more teams than it plays singles, and the other big thing is up until fairly recently they were almost exclusively using like gamer tags because they were playing on a site called Mini Headquarters, and so a lot of their elos are kind of screwed up in general. So just kind of keep that in mind. A lot of them don't have elos that we recognize because we haven't associated their names with their tags online. Anyway, Thomas was playing Grizzly Company, which means that he had to be playing priority assets. He had a Castlin brick, a Yark mini brick, a Sign Command Squad with 10 Sons, a Sign Command Squad with 5 Sons, Gaunt's Ghost, Nork Deadog, an Ogre Bodyguard, Slime Marbo, 1 unit 5 Greek Engineers, 2 units of 2 Armored Sentinels with Lance Cannons, and then 3 Lemur's Vanquishers. And this is kind of in the sense of what I've been calling like a Neo Doombolt. It's kind of been the upgrade, or maybe not the upgrade, but like the transition that we've seen from 10th edition to 11th. The Yarrick brick here, because it's not going in a transport, can run around with Nork Deadog. And you have to be like a little bit careful about where like the positioning is with Yark in order to potentially get the splash, because there's not that many orders, and he's the only thing that can actually order your vehicles or your vanquishers in this. Other than that, though, it is still a decent amount of damage, and Armored Sentinels, units of 2 of them, are surprisingly hard to shift, especially now that they have gone down to 120 points. I have been seeing murmurs about these. I've tried them. They're solid, right? Like, if you're looking to do Bulgrin to just, like, move into the middle, the big difference here is in exchange for, like, 80 points less, you're still going to do no damage anyway, but you're giving up Hidden. And so the question then becomes, like, is Hidden worth 80 points, right? Because the 2 Armored Sentinels are still 14 wounds of 2 up save, T8. So, like, they are very much not trivial to remove. So you're starting to see these a little bit, and you can use these as the bait pieces for that, for your Scions and your Vanquishers to come shoot things. Here, one of the big things that is nice about them is because they are relatively difficult to remove. They do require a lot of assets. It does mean that your Vanquishers can oftentimes hide a little bit longer. You can also get a first volley off with the Armored Sentinels, and they can very plausibly actually survive on the middle objective, which is very, very important for priority assets in general. Thomas here ended up beating Imperial Knights, Admech Custodes, losing a very close game. That makes me think it went to time. They didn't actually play all 5 rounds in the 4th round there, and then beating Thousand Suns as the 5th one. So congratulations to Thomas. I definitely think it's the first time we've had you on the channel. Moving on, semi-event, we have Gaspard Frumi going 4-1 with Steel Hammer plus Abhuman Auxiliaries. And he chose to play this one in Taken Hold, which is interesting to me, but you know, this is a 15 Bulgrin. You got 3 Commissars with Exemplar of Duty, giving them the 4 Feel No Pain. And they do also, Commissars do also get the -1 damage as long as there's a Bulgrin alive, you know, throughout the course of that activation. So the Commissar is actually really, really hard to remove towards the end, because I got the 5-up invul, 4-up Feel No Pain, and -1 damage. So very difficult to actually remove. Backing it up with a Bane Sword with a Battalion Commander, so that's giving your orders, and then the Doom Hammer with Titan Killer, so rerolling damage. Gaunt's Ghost and Engine Seer with Engine Speaker for the extra movement, and in Engine Seer, a Hellhound and 2 Scout Sentinels. So I'm kind of expecting like the main thrust of this is taking the Doom Hammer with a unit of 6 Bulgrin inside and just like thrusting it at your opponent. You can go 18 inches between move, 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 and Engine Speaker, and then you just you know, you put Bulgrin in their face and they have a surge move. I think Assault Ramp is a enhancement, but you can still do it, right? Like if you can just like put things really far into your opponent's face, it is still a problem to have a 4-up invul Doomhammer and also have a bunch of 4-up invul dudes with a surge move like on your doorstep. So that is something to kind of keep in mind. It is a very interesting list here. It is very much a stat check. This is a lot of relatively high toughness for invul models. Your opponent does have to remove, and it is like a fair amount of damage between the Bane Sword and the Doomhammer, but it's not the most. I also just realized about 3 O's in Doomhammer. But Gaspard ended up beating Eldar, Emperor's Children, Tau, losing a close game to Necrons, and then beating Drukhari for the last one. So very interesting stuff coming out here from Gaspard, and we got one more. Oh, did I just miss a player? Hmm. It'll be very sad. This is gonna be a weird video, you guys, because I'm gonna do some editing like live for y'all. All right. So after Gaspard, because I know he's you know he's in my Discord. I want to make sure I'm doing right by him. How do I want to do this? Hmm. How do I want to do this? We're just gonna do it live, I think. Sorry, Hugo. Okay. Why was I? Why did I not do this before? All right. We're just doing it live. So this one we have Hugo Batt, who also went 4-1. Did I? I definitely did this. Did I just like remove it? I think I I think I just removed it afterwards. Um Whatever. I'm not going to think about it too hard. We're vibing here. You guys are having a good time. I'm having a good time. Um nah. You guys can watch me do this in real time. This is actually what I do for like every single one of these slides as I go through. There's probably a way to do this faster. Ooh, this is. And then we got. Let's turn the back. Normal color. Yeah, I definitely remember doing this before. So I think I accidentally just deleted the slide. Sorry, Hugo. Um, this is recon. This is take and hold. And then this is purge. All right, Hugo. And what was your list? We had. I think that's what it was. I think I did it, and then when I was doing the other one for Frumi, I just didn't put it back. Something like that. Yeah, that's I don't know, dude. Now I'm kind of concerned about like what happened when I was doing this. And then Titan Killer. And we go. One of the things that I was very entertained by the other day is that people have it as a goal to like actually make it into these videos, which is why, when someone first told me that, it made me feel bad. Um, yeah, I definitely made this slide before, guys. All right, whatever. But it made me like feel bad when like every now and then like I miss people because I know that there are people who are like looking forward after they do well in an event. It's like, oh boy, I get to be in one of these videos. So, I also thought it was really funny the other day. Kind of in the same vein when Anthony Keene, who did well at like Birmingham, just sent me a mess. I don't think I ever actually responded to him on Reddit, but I was so entertained that he was like, "Hey, you know, it says I went 3-1-1, but actually I went 4-1. We had an issue like submitting a score." And I was just like, look, if you got the balls to just like, because if he's lying, you know, like, fair enough, dude. If you want to, if that's like a goal, but it also is just like, as a reminder, like, oh yeah, people really enjoy when they see their names in these videos. All right, we are done. We're done editing. We got Hugo Batt. Went 4-1 this weekend with Steel Hammer and Abhuman. No, not Abhuman. He was playing. What was he playing? This was Designation Force, and this was in Recon. There we go. All right, we are back on track, everyone. Okay, he was playing Steelhammer Designation Force in Recon, which is a very interesting way to try and play this overall because you do have the two super heavies, the Storm Sword and the Baneblade, which is a lot of damage, just in general. And you have access to the full reroll stratagem. You have the Scout Sentinels to point and reroll ones if you need to. You don't have any real access to Ignore's cover, but there's also like a random Basilisk in here, which is kind of nice, especially because in 11th edition, the distances that a lot of melee infantry has to go tends to be farther. We're not seeing it. That's going to be weird to say. A lot of like this already slow infantry is kind of struggling to play if it's not like in a transport or something, and so this Basilisk just kind of like makes them completely not able to do anything. Right? They just can't. They kind of can't function, and especially now that we've got the recent change to the FAQ about like how charge things work, where it even works ex post facto. It's effectively a -3 to charge or a -5 to charge compared to like what they were doing previously. So it's a really interesting little tech piece. There are still enough things. You do have to rely a lot on all of your 60-point units and your Scout Sentinels ready to do like all of your actions around the board for recon. But if you can do that, you can also just like kill your opponent if that is looking a little bit too hard. It looks like that did never really became the primary factor in any of these games, but maybe it did versus the Necrons, where the Baneblade might have enough shots to just like lift an entire brick of Necron warriors in one go. So that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, anyway, Hugo Batt, more super heavies. The French really were liking their super heavies. I think there are more players with super heavies than without them at Path to Glory. So they're really liking it over in that country. So we'll see what that ends up having to do with the upcoming transition to WTC. Moving back over to the United States, we got a couple teams list for you. There was one more player who unfortunately did not have a great weekend, but I do want to show you these. So if you're interested as well in being in these videos, one of the first things, the bigger thing that I'm trying to demonstrate with these is it's not even so much these are lists that did well, so much as these are lists that good players think are worth taking to a team's environment where you care more about like your performance for the team than you necessarily do for yourself. And also the other big thing, so it's 1600 plus elo. The other big thing is a minimum average score of 8 per round. So this, you need to have a score of 32 points over 4 games. There were a couple others that did not quite make it, but these are, these are like okay, right? So this is a blunting list coming out from Andre Gorin. He was previously playing Recon in 10th edition, and now he's playing Armored Infantry and Designation Force. I was trying to make this work. I thought it was okay. He had Ursa create a Cadian Command Squad and 10 Cadians, Yarrick assign Command Squad and 5 Scions, Graves and Carr, Gaunt's Ghost, and Engineer with Omniscient Unguent, so that's the aura of the 5-up Feel No Pain. 1 Chimera that Yarrick and friends are going to be hopping inside, 2 Armored Sentinels, 2 units of 2 armored sentinels, a hellhound, 1 unit of 2 hippogriffs with gatling and stubbers, and 2 units of hippogriffs with meltas all around, 2 scout sentinels, Acadian recon, 1 unit of 5 death riders, 1 unit of 5 Krieg engineers. I'm still not a super fond of any armament other than the meltas on the hippogriffs, just because, like, you know, they just don't kill 10 dudes, right? You just don't kill 10 cultists with the Gatling gun and the stubber, or even like 2 Gatling guns and 2 stubbers. You just don't kill 10 cultists. And so, with that in mind, you just kind of like maybe you can run up, shoot enough of them, and then like flip it by putting 4 or 6 OC on the objective. But that's like, it's like right on the edge of like whether or not that's actually going to happen. Especially because you're hitting on 4s at best most of the time with these units. So like they're okay. They're kind of interesting. Overall, this is just a lot of I think they're called armored skirmishers, vanguard skirmishers, something like that. All the like the medium vehicles that we have in the army. Again, we're seeing the units of 2 armored sentinels pop up because they are, they're difficult to shift. But just having a lot of relatively fast units here, you do have like one big potential punch coming out with Yarick in the Chimera that you can use at some point. And other than that, it's just like a lot of like nickel and diming. You're pretty good at using like the Oath of Moment stratagem where like you shoot a scout sentinel at something, you're rerolling once to hit, you get +2 strength and ignores cover against that target. So you're pretty good at like killing like one thing that's like toughness 11 or lower, but everything else is kind of like, it's a little bit hard to actually kill with this army. Andrei ends up only getting 1 win, but 3 losses. So he gets a 13 into Death Guard, and then a 9 into Custodes, a 9 into Death Guard. So those are like draws, right? That is definitely something that is worth doing in a team's environment. Just like, hey, I'm not necessarily going to win, but a small loss is fine. And then unfortunately, it does get run over here by Emperor's Children, who tend to go a little bit wider, but I didn't actually look super heavily at what the list was that the Emperor's Children player was playing. At the same event, we have Taylor John Morton going 2-2 with Hammer of the Emperor Designation Force and also playing this one in Recon. So kind of similar in some ways to the list that Hugo Batt was playing, where he takes like a bunch of tanks and then put it in Recon with a bunch of like little dudes running around. This is Taylor John Morton doing like a similar thing. Instead of 2 super heavies, it is 3 Rogueldorn battle tanks, 2 Hellhounds, and an Exterminator, then running other little dudes around. And Taylor had a Lord Solar, Acadian Command Squad, Tincadians, Rogueldorn Commander with the 6 up Field of Pain, Indomitable Steed, Sly Marbo, 2 Engineers, 5 Rough Riders, Acadian Recon, 1 unit of 5 Krieg Engineers, 2 Hellhounds, 1 Luminous Exterminator, 2 Battle Tanks, and then 2 Scout Sentinels. And Taylor did not have close games at all. He lost 3-17 to Necrons, 4-16 to World Leaders, but he also beat GSC really hard, getting 18-2 into them 2 different times. Okay, that's the last list to actually show you guys today. Let me go ahead and do a little something behind the scenes before I switch over to myself. Where am I? There I am. Okay. All right. Gotta fluff up the hair a little bit. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about a couple different things. This could be its own video, probably, and it might be a longer one. The first one, let's talk about the drama. Drama was fucking stupid, guys. Like, it's a fucking tier list. Who cares? Right? I do think like the argument is like, hey, they should have gotten the list correct. It wasn't a legal list. That I think is worth like, giving them some shade for, right? That is their fault. However, there are a couple things that I do want to talk about. One, it's a fucking tier list. Who cares? It doesn't matter. There's like the other big thing about like their tier list, right, is Art of War does their tier list with the idea of like if the best players in the world are playing this, can you win a GT with it? And the answer is fucking yes, you can still do it. However, one of the big things about it is they also don't care what like style of list, right? Is the average player having success with this? Because the average player is not having success with guard at all. Your good players are not having that much success with guard. Again, I can tell you about so many good players who are, traditionally guard players who are just not playing it right now because they're either not having fun. I'm not having fun with the army right now, or they don't think the juice is there. Like it's not worth the squeeze. So there's like a lot of pressure getting put on people in order to try and play guard. Is guard good? I think seeing, Nemo and Tucker playing almost identical lists, this last weekend shows that like there is very clearly a good list. But I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I don't want to fucking play it. I have no interest in playing this list. I don't know how much I talked about this, but if you guys, I went to like a Teams event in Wyoming 2 months ago, I think at this point, and I was playing Recon at that, and I legitimately almost broke down crying at the event, right? Like I was frustrated. I felt like I had let my team down because I didn't enjoy what I was doing. I didn't feel like I played that event particularly well. In general, it's not a style that I like. It's not a style that naturally plays. It, it does not play to my strengths as a list. It was not fun, and that's kind of how I feel looking at the list that like Nemo and Tucker are playing, and that is fair criticism. That is like, hey, if there's only one list that is having success or that is like can win a GT, and people don't want to play it, that's not great. So, but the other big thing that I kind of want to talk about is like Tucker's a fantastic player, right? He's really fucking good at the game. I was talking to a GSC player the other day, and they were saying something along the lines of the only player that they like actively like search for their lists, like whenever they do well, is Tucker Rickey. Um, because he's not only really, really good, he's also really innovative, right? He finds things that a lot of other players ignore, right? The story that I was also told is like the last World Championships, he took Brood Brothers, and he was the best performing GSC player there. And a lot of other GSC players don't think Brood Brothers is particularly good, right? So Tucker sees things that the rest of us don't. He's very, very good at understanding like I think it's just like he's got a really good intuitive understanding of like how to play the board in ways that is not intuitive to a lot of other people, and it makes him very, very good at what he does. So you know, hopefully he says yes to the interview that I'm inviting him to do. But even if not, I don't know if he does coaching for Art of War, but I would, I would wholeheartedly recommend. I don't know how good he is as a coach, but he's a because I haven't interacted with him in that way, and I think there are a lot of good players that do not make good coaches. However, Tucker Rickey is a fantastic player, so you know if he says something about like that style of guard, um, I listen to it, right? I will pay attention to. I won't always necessarily agree towards the end, but I will listen to it, and I think that's one of the big things that a lot of people are not doing. Right? Um, I think it was very funny on Reddit because do I think I'm worth listening to? Of course I do. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a YouTube channel. But I also like there's a very big difference, right? If someone on Reddit who I don't know who they are, I don't recognize their username, if they say X like if someone on Reddit had approached me and given me the list that Nemo and Tucker played this last weekend, I would have disregarded it, right? Not necessarily because I think it's bad, but because I have no reason to think it's good. And I frankly would like, I love you guys posting in the comments, but a lot of you guys, I don't know who you are, right? And so there's like what is this being tested against? Is this being tested against good players? Is everything being played properly? I don't know if you're playing on like official tournament terrain. I just don't know. But there's a very big difference between like, you know, if a random on Reddit had approached me with Nemo's list, and then Nemo sends me the exact same list and says, "Hey, I think this is pretty good." I'm gonna like pause and be like, firstly, why? Explain this to me. But I'm also probably going to take it for like a spin afterwards. So just kind of keep that in mind. Be very Ted Lasso about the whole thing, right? Be curious, not judgmental, right? I've tried so many lists so far in 11th. Most of them I've not had a lot of success with. Most of them I've not had a lot of fun with. But there are, give it a try. It's a game. We're having fun. Other big thing. So moving away from the drum a little bit. A little bit. So one of the things that has been really like frustrating in general, and I get this too, right, is like people will look at guard, the faction, not the players. We'll talk about the faction first, and be like, this faction is very, very powerful, even at times when not all of us are having success with it. And a lot of people's response, or a lot of people will like look at this and then they'll talk to the guard players and be like, you got to get good at the faction, right? And that's frustrating to listen to as well. I sympathize with that, right? I'm kind of having a similar thing where like the yardstick that I am being measured against is Nemo, right? And Nemo is one of the best players in the world, right? He's super super good, very very good at figuring out a lot of different things about the game. Moves, he's a faster player than I am. He he's better. He's a better player than I am. And I'm also at the spot where it's like, when I'm being measured against that, I don't know how much hope there is there is for me, you know? And so like I feel for a lot of the players who are like, you know, I've seen conversations where people are like, you know, the best players in the world are like Nassim, David Gaylord, Nemo, and Joshi. And I'm like, whoa, like, hold on. I like to think I'm pretty good. I'm not that good. But the other big thing is just like, you know, have a little bit of grace, right? There is a little bit of understanding that, yes, if we all had the time and we all, decided to just get good and have the money to buy all the models, this is a thing that we could do. But the frustration on both sides really, there's definitely frustration targeted at guard players, um, because we are kind of whiny. But there is also frustration directed at guard the faction, and guard the faction is an incredibly skill expressive army to play, and has been for a while. But I think I've been having a bit of a frustration for a while with the way that guard has been balanced. Right, I do not think guard balance internally and the philosophy by which guard has been balanced for a while has been very good. And one of the big things for this, perhaps the best example, the most obvious example of this is Scions, right? It started off, Scions were like 50 points for like five. There's like 5,100, and then I think the command squad was like 75 points or something. And that was absurd. It was incredibly strong, like once people like started figuring it out. But now I think five Scions are 70 points, I think. And the command squad is 85. But or 95? I don't know. They've gone up quite a bit. But the bigger point, right, is like orders are so incredibly good, and some leaders are super, super powerful, but we're being charged like our normal units are being charged because the leaders are really good in a way that is like not actually like working out. So the example here, right, is like the Scion Command Squad should legitimately cost like 100 points or more, right? 100, 105, 110, maybe. It is that good. However, five Scions shouldn't cost 70 points. They're not that good, right? You would you should be able to take a unit of five of them and be like, this is my throwaway piece to do a secondary. But they don't do that, right? People don't do that. You always attach them to the Scion Command Squad. And if you wanted to throw them as like, here's like my little throwaway piece, it's not an option. So I think realistically, like, five Scions, maybe 55, 60 points, maybe. But the Scion Command Squad should legitimately be like 100 something, like 100, 110, somewhere in there. And then 10 Scions, right? 10 Scions, if we're looking at like 50 to 60, should probably be like 110, 120, somewhere in that range. Because by the time you're doing that, like that is a hard hitting unit, right? And so overall, the actual like cost of the combination of units shouldn't change that much. Maybe go up a little bit, maybe. Um, but we need to be charged properly for the command squad, right? It's because the command squad has been so fucking good for so long. It really changes a lot of stuff around it. And I think another big one has been the Cadian Castellan, right? Um, 20 Cadians, they're okay, like they're decent. Uh, but they get unlocked. They become incredible when you attach a Cadian Castellan to them in a Cadian Command Squad. The Cadian Command Squad not as much as it was before, but they become so good with the Cadian Castellan. Sustain and fall back and shoot when you have like, is it 16? 14. You have 14 las guns to just kill before you even get to the special weapons, and then you have like the two auto guns, which are also kind of worthless, right? Like you have so many shots available to you. And if you get rid of those, like if you make those cost more, right? The Castellan currently, I think it's 55. The Castellan should be like 75, maybe 80 points. But the actual like 20 Cadians, at 120 points, they're okay, but like that should come down. We shouldn't be paying a premium for the 20 Cadians. We should be paying a premium for the Castellan. And so we're just like the balance is like all out of whack because they're looking at it's the 20 Cadians that are the problem. It's not really. They're not really the problem. Um and a similar thing is with like the Dorn commander and like because like you have like characters like Lord Solar who doesn't do a ton beyond give orders. Uh Creed is like, you know, also just mostly orders in a free strat. So she's, pointed reasonably, I think, at this point. Um but whenever our order givers also do other things that are like powerful on the board, we are getting them too cheaply, but then the rest of our stuff around it is costing too much. And so I think if there's like a new philosophy surrounding like guard points and how much we're charging for orders and how much we're charging for the actual data sheets, I think that would be very very healthy for the guard in general if like we switched it so we stopped being charged for like the dudes and started paying a lot more for the leaders on average. Anyway, that's my TED talk. I think that would help a lot. I think it would help narrow the difference between very good players are having a lot of success and the rest of the community has been struggling at the same time. So, we'll see. I would love to see some changes in the upcoming data slate. We will see exactly what happens because they need to be able to balance both for like the top, right? The top needs to be kind of balanced, right? There needs to be some level of balance at that level. There's always going to be things that like escape notice that the best players are able to get away with. But the other big thing is like if we are only balancing for the top, we're going to end up with a very frustrated community like we have been seeing recently. So, um, heavy weapons teams probably need to go up, but I really hope that they like revert some of the other changes that they made to make other stuff go up at the same time. Anyway, this has been a weird episode. This has been a weird meta update. I hope you guys enjoyed this version of it. For now, though, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys all next time. Bye bye.